My name is Rachel Burns. This year marks my 10th year working as a pharmacist at Newton Wellesley Hospital. This morning, as I tied back my shoulder-length brown hair, I smiled at myself in the mirror. Never forget to smile, even when you're busy. This is an important lesson my mother taught me. My smartphone shows 6:30 a.m. My hospital shift starts at 8 o'clock. Before that, I need to prepare breakfast and lunch for my son Lucas, and help my husband Michael get ready for work. Some people say I'm too much of a perfectionist, but my meticulous nature actually helps me balance work and parenting in my current lifestyle. Mom, did you wash my soccer uniform? An energetic voice echoes from the living room. Lucas just turned 8 this year. He's a third grader at the local elementary school and is always passionate about soccer after school. With his bright and active personality, he's popular among his classmates. Though he seems concerned about his father coming home late recently, he's grown into a kind boy who's always thoughtful of me. I washed it last night, it's already dry, I answered, and Lucas broke into a big smile. My husband Michael works as a middle manager at an IT company. He's tall and dedicated enough to go to the sports gym 3 times a week. His neat appearance and meticulous personality might be similar to mine. Married for 8 years, until recently, others considered him an ideal husband. However, he has a side that he doesn't show to anyone. He becomes indecisive when faced with important decisions. Good morning, Michael appeared in the kitchen after his shower and kissed my cheek. It's our daily morning ritual. But lately, something has felt different. Looking back, we met 8 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. Attracted to Michael's sincere personality, we dated for a year before getting married. At that time, my sister Ashley was the one who congratulated us most sincerely. Ashley, with her model-like figure and flashy clothes, works as a beauty influencer. She recently went through a sudden divorce 3 months ago and is now living at our parents' home. Though I'm worried about her seemingly unstable mental state, I've tried my best to be understanding. Our family lives in Riverside Gardens, a quiet residential area in the Boston suburbs. On weekends, our routine includes walking along the Charles River or having family picnics. Movie watching is also our precious family time. While Lucas loves action movies, Michael and I enjoy romantic comedies. We're particularly close with our neighbor Martha, who's a warm-hearted woman in her mid-60s. She's been looking after Lucas since he was little. She's active in the church community and sometimes brings us homemade apple pies on holidays. In the kitchen, as the toaster releases its fragrant aroma, I finished preparing breakfast. The table is set with fresh whole wheat toast, scrambled eggs, and fresh fruit. I also added a salad made with organic vegetables from Whole Foods. Michael is busy checking his smartphone this morning too, but this has become part of our daily routine. On weekends, we should be able to spend more relaxed family time together. Outside the window, birds are chirping, announcing the start of a new day. As I quietly watched my family, I wished this peaceful daily life would continue forever. But life sometimes takes unexpected turns. At that moment, I couldn't have imagined that this tranquil daily life was about to be greatly shaken. Monday, January 15, 2024. This morning started just like any other. The scent of coffee wafting through the kitchen and the pleasant sound from the toaster. Outside the window, a gloomy gray sky stretches out. The weather forecast says it will be cloudy with occasional rain. At the entrance, I can hear Lucas hurriedly preparing for school. "Mom, are you coming to watch my practice game today?" Lucas asked while munching on his pancakes. In front of him was a plate of pancakes generously topped with maple syrup and fresh blueberries. "Of course. I'm finishing early today, so I can pick you up," I answered with a smile. Michael had already finished preparing for work and was adjusting his tie. Recently, he had been rushing out of the house more often, barely finishing breakfast. "I'm heading out first," Michael briefly announced, placing his coffee cup in the sink. Usually, we would enjoy breakfast together as a family, but this morning felt unusually hurried. The day at the hospital was busier than usual. At 8 a.m., I changed into my white coat and attended the morning meeting in the pharmacy department. It's flu season, and we're swamped with outpatient prescriptions. Even lunch with my colleague Sarah was cut short to just 15 minutes. Sarah looked worried about me, but nothing particular was wrong. "I'm just a bit tired lately." The afternoon was focused on dispensing medications. Checking antibiotic inventory, verifying prescriptions, counseling patients on their medications. The clock hands quickly pointed to 5:30 p.m. "See you tomorrow, Rachel," Sarah called out. "You seem a bit down lately, are you okay?" "Yes, thank you. Just busy," I answered with a smile. But truthfully, I had been feeling something was off at home too. I was concerned that Michael was coming home later and we were spending less family time together. When I left the hospital, a light rain had started falling. I quickly got into my car and headed to Lucas's practice location. The sound of wipers clearing the rain somehow felt particularly lonely today. At exactly 6 p.m., I arrived at the soccer field. On the ground, Lucas and his teammates were enthusiastically practicing. My heart warmed at the sight of children in red uniforms running around energetically in the rain. "Good evening, Mrs. Burns," other parents greeted me warmly. We huddled under umbrellas, sharing our usual conversations about our children's growth and weekend games. After practice, Lucas excitedly told me about today's session. "Hey Mom, did you see my shot?" While helping him change, I nodded and replied, "You did very well." In the car on our way home, Lucas's cheerful voice filled the space. "What's for dinner?" "I only have math homework today. I really want to win next week's game." These casual conversations made me feel warm inside. "How about pizza?" When I suggested it, Lucas's eyes lit up. "Yay! I wonder if Dad can eat with us." By the time we arrived at the apartment parking lot, the rain had become heavier. Lucas and I hurried to the elevator with our shopping bags. Lucas seemed a bit tired and was leaning against my arm. I pressed the elevator button, selecting the 3rd floor. The digital display slowly counted up the floors. At this moment, I still didn't know. I had no idea that this ordinary day would dramatically change our family's life. When the elevator doors opened, a dimly lit hallway greeted us. One fluorescent light was flickering faintly. It was a strangely quiet night with the sound of rain echoing in the distance. Lucas, appearing tired, held my hand tightly. Just as we started walking down the short hallway to room 304 with our shopping bags, it happened. "Rachel." I stopped at the sudden voice. Turning around, I saw Martha bursting out of room 302 across the hall. Her expression, usually calm, was more urgent than I'd ever seen. Wearing a light purple cardigan, both her hands were trembling. "Don't go home. Something terrible is happening." Martha's voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. Her eyes were fixed on our apartment door. With trembling hands, she tried to pull me toward her apartment. "Martha, what do you mean?" My words were cut short as we heard sounds coming from our apartment. Something falling to the floor. And what sounded like people arguing in low voices. "Mom." Lucas grabbed the hem of my clothes. I could feel his small hand trembling. That's when it happened. A loud sound echoed from room 304, either a gunshot or something breaking. Following that, a woman's scream. My body froze. "Quickly, this way." Martha pulled us into her apartment. The sound of the door closing seemed unusually loud. My mind went blank. "Michael? Who's in that room? Who screamed?" Questions kept arising, but I couldn't find answers. "The police. I need to call the police." With trembling hands, I took out my smartphone. It seemed to take twice as long as usual to unlock the screen. 911, what's your emergency? I heard what sounded like a gunshot from my home. What's your address? Riverside Gardens, room 304. Guided by the operator's calm voice, I provided the necessary information. During this time, intermittent sounds continued coming from the room. Something falling. Screaming. And people arguing intensely. In Martha's apartment, Lucas was trembling slightly. Martha held him, gently rubbing his back. "It's okay, the police will be here soon." Martha's voice carried strength that tried to hide her anxiety. "Lucas, let's pray together." I stood by the window, waiting for the police to arrive. The rain had gotten stronger, and the streetlights created a surreal scene as they reflected off the raindrops. The clock hands seemed to move unusually slowly. As the sound of sirens approached, blue and red lights illuminated the rain-soaked street. 2 police cars and 1 ambulance. I could see police officers quickly entering the building. Strong voices echoed in the hallway, and I instinctively pressed my ear to the door. Lucas was still closing his eyes in Martha's arms. Then came the sound of a door being broken down. The sound of officers rushing in. I felt like I might faint. Martha supported my back. "Rachel, sit down. Let the police handle this now." There was a knock on Martha's door. When the door opened, uniformed officers quietly entered the room. One was an older white male, and the other was a young black female. Both carried a professional air about them. "May we check the apartment across from your window?" the older officer asked politely. "If you have a telescope or camera, could we borrow it?" Martha nodded silently and retrieved an old telescope from her closet. "My husband used to enjoy astronomy," she explained in a soft voice. The young female officer set up the telescope by the window and began observing room 304. Though the rain made visibility poor, she could somewhat make out what was happening inside. In the hallway, other officers' voices crossed paths, and radio sounds came intermittently. We remained quiet in Martha's apartment, barely breathing. Outside the window, the rain continued falling. The officers finished their telescope observation and quickly began their strategy meeting. Through the radio, they seemed to be waiting for special tactical unit reinforcements. A gentle incense fragrance drifted through the room. Martha calmly began preparing tea. Her gestures showed thoughtfulness in trying to ease the tense atmosphere. She offered cups to the officers as well. They accepted with apologetic but grateful expressions. Mrs. Burns, the female officer, approached me. "Your husband or any other family members who might be home?" I answered with a trembling voice. "My husband should still be at work. But lately his return times have been irregular." My words caught in my throat. I felt my mouth go dry. "Anyone else?" "My sister. She recently moved back from our parents' home and sometimes visits." The officers exchanged glances. On the radio, a voice announced the tactical unit's arrival. The young female officer returned to the window and looked through the telescope. "No change in the room situation. The woman isn't moving. The man is." She paused for a moment. "He appears to be operating a cell phone." Lucas seemed to have finally regained some composure. However, he still flinched at occasional sounds from across the hall. I held his hand tight. The warmth of his small hand was my only support right now. "Rachel, you're a strong woman," Martha spoke in a quiet voice. "Whatever happens, we're here for you." Those words nearly brought tears to my eyes. But I couldn't cry in front of Lucas. I took a deep breath and suppressed my trembling heart. When the tactical unit burst into the room, they found a shocking scene. Ashley was on the floor, conscious but had hit her head hard during the struggle. Michael stood in the corner of the room, holding pieces of a broken vase. The room was completely ransacked, with the table overturned and papers and photos scattered across the floor. Ashley was transported to the hospital by ambulance. Along with treatment for her head injury, doctors decided to keep her for observation due to her unstable mental state. During the subsequent investigation, Ashley was admitted to a psychiatric hospital under emergency status. She had been making suicidal statements while in an agitated state, leading psychiatrists to determine she needed protective medical care. I had to hear the details from the police officers. What they told me far exceeded my imagination. "Could you please verify these pieces of evidence?" The senior detective placed transparent evidence bags in front of me. They contained multiple smartphones, bundles of receipts, handwritten notes, and photographs. My hands were shaking. But I needed to know the truth. The first thing that caught my eye was a bundle of receipts from luxury hotels. Records of 15 stays at 5 high-end hotels in downtown Boston. All receipts were made out to Michael Burns. The total amount came to about $20,000. All dates were within the past 3 months. This is... Words failed me. Next, the officer showed me screenshots from Ashley's smartphone. They revealed threatening exchanges with Michael. "I need more money this month. If you can't pay, I'll tell your wife everything. Why are you doing this to me? Isn't this the path you chose? Who continued the relationship with me?" Following the dates of the messages, the beginning of everything became clear. 3 months ago, Ashley went through a divorce. I'd heard it was due to domestic violence from her husband, but I didn't know more details. She had rented an apartment near our parents' home and continued her work as an influencer. Behind her flashy social media posts, she had been financially desperate. The first contact apparently happened after a family dinner. It all started when Michael offered Ashley financial support. Their relationship of confiding in each other gradually evolved into secret meetings. The scattered photographs documented this progression in detail. Dining at expensive restaurants, pictures of them together on trips, security camera images from hotel lobbies. All had been systematically collected as evidence. "Let me explain the details of today's incident," the detective began in a quiet voice. Ashley had come tonight to make her final demand, $50,000 in cash. She threatened to expose everything if he didn't comply, even bringing out a replica gun. When Michael refused her demands for the first time, they got into a physical altercation. Ashley's emotions exploded, and the room turned into chaos. Behind this lay Ashley's deep-seated emotions. Complex feelings toward her sister who had always been praised by their parents since childhood. Years of being compared during school days. Jealousy over her sister's happy marriage. Resentment over her own failed marriage. Everything had intertwined, ultimately leading her to decide to destroy her sister's home. The police investigation also revealed Michael's situation. Fear of losing his position at work, anxiety about losing his family. His indecisive personality had driven him to make the worst choices. What started as small requests for financial help gradually increased in amount. He had depleted his savings and maxed out his credit cards. This is the final threatening note found at the scene. Ashley's handwritten note specified exact amounts, deadlines, and threats if demands weren't met. Even bank account details for transfers were meticulously recorded. It was evidence of a sister's calculated revenge. In Martha's room, Lucas had fallen asleep from exhaustion. Outside the window, the rain continued falling. Now knowing the truth, this rain seemed to mirror the emotions swirling violently in my heart. There was just one thing I didn't understand. Why had Martha helped us at that time? Actually, Martha began speaking quietly. I had noticed something strange about Ashley's behavior recently. And tonight, when I saw her enter the building in an unusual state. Truth sometimes far exceeds our imagination. It confronts us with reality in an almost cruel clarity. 1 week after that night's events, all the truth had come to light, and my heart was filled with complex emotions. Through police investigation, Ashley was admitted to a psychiatric hospital for emergency care. Though it was a replica, threatening someone with a gun is a serious crime. However, considering her mental state, our parents arranged for her protective medical care. Michael admitted to everything, the affair and the financial transactions. He had already reported it to his company and was facing demotion. He sends apologetic messages every day, but I'm not ready to reply yet. This past week, Lucas and I have been staying at my parents' house. Today too, the scent of my mother's tea wafts through the kitchen. Though it was painful to explain everything to my parents, it was necessary. "Rachel, we support your decision," my mother gently held my hand. Her warmth nearly brought tears to my eyes. "We'll support Lucas with all our strength too." Father nodded silently. Though he usually doesn't show his emotions, today he had tears in his eyes, which was rare. "I'll introduce you to a lawyer I know for the divorce proceedings." Father's voice was unusually gentle. Divorce from Michael. Every time I turn those two words over in my mind, my chest tightens. But I knew this was the best choice. For Lucas's sake, and for my own. When I returned to the hospital, I was saved by my colleagues' understanding attitudes. Sarah in particular helped me with everything from arranging my leave to adjusting my work shifts. "Take time off whenever you need it," the department head kindly told me. "You've worked so hard these past 10 years. Martha comes to check on us almost daily, always bringing something she's made. Somehow, the scent of her apple pie helps calm my heart." "How's Lucas doing?" Martha asked worriedly one day. "He's talking regularly with the school counselor. The teacher says he's surprisingly positive." Indeed, Lucas was stronger than I expected. Of course, he still wakes up from nightmares sometimes. But during the day, he plays energetically with his friends and hasn't missed a single soccer practice. "Will I never see Dad again?" Lucas quietly asked one night before bed. "Of course you will. Dad is still Dad. We'll just be living separately for a while." Lucas nodded slightly at my words. I could see a mature understanding in his eyes. A month later, we moved to a new apartment. Though it's a bit further from the Charles River, it's closer to Lucas's school. It's a bright, clean place my parents found for us. On moving day, my hospital colleagues all came to help. Sarah gave us new curtains as a present, and other staff members brought their own warm gifts. "A new beginning in a new place," Martha said as she brought us a houseplant. "Like this plant, you'll both put down roots and grow strong." Thinking about Ashley still pains my heart. She's currently receiving counseling from a psychiatrist. Though our parents worry about her too, they understand the importance of maintaining distance for now. From the window of our new apartment, we can see a small park. On weekends, I can watch Lucas playing soccer there. I'm also slowly starting to sort out my feelings. Every morning when I look in the mirror before work, I notice myself changing little by little. The sadness hasn't disappeared, but a new strength is growing. Perhaps it's proof that we've overcome hardship. "Mom, what's for dinner tonight?" Lucas's voice came from the kitchen. "Well." I smile. "How about we order pizza as a special treat?" Yay! Looking at my son's smile, I feel that even though the road ahead won't be smooth, we'll surely get through it. Our new life has just begun. And I believe that through this ordeal, we'll be bound together by stronger, deeper bonds. Outside the window, the rain had finally stopped, and the evening sun was breaking through the clouds.